everyone! Today we're going to be talking about angles and equation. Let's start off by defining some angles and then identifying them here in this diagram. Let's start with vertical angles. Vertical angles are opposite angles. They are formed by two intersecting lines, and then they are the angles that are opposite in them when the lines intersect. Vertical angles have the same measure, meaning they equal each other. So if we look down here at this diagram below, I'm going to highlight here this line right here and this line here in pink. And if you notice, they form angle C and angle E. You see how angle C and angle E are opposite each other? And it tells us that angle C is 90 degrees. Well, it tells us it's a right angle, and right angles are 90 degrees. And because angle E is opposite angle C and formed by the two same intersecting lines, it is also 90 degrees. So up here, we're going to write that we're going to use our angle symbol here. Angle C and angle E are vertical angles. Let's talk about supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are angles that sum to 180 degrees. That's easy to see on a diagram because they form a line. So angles that sum to 180 degrees. If I look down here in my diagram below, down here again, I have, if you look at this line right here, okay, if you notice I have angle C, and if I add that with angle D, that's forming this line here that's in pink. Now those are not the only supplementary angles on this diagram, but those are two of them. So if you have an idea for another one that also works, that is okay. So for example, like angles D and angle E would also be supplementary. Let's go on to complementary angles. Complementary angles are angles that sum to 90 degrees, which can also be fairly easy to see in a diagram if they have the right angle symbol there or are labeled. So let's look at this. If you notice right here, it tells me that angle C is 90 degrees. Angle C is complementary with this whole angle right here, angle A plus angle B, because they form this line right there. So that means that angle A plus angle B have to equal 90 degrees. Therefore, angle A and angle B are complementary angles, right? If I sum them together, they're going to equal 90 degrees. So angle A and angle B. Let's go on to adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that have a common ray. Now, a ray is just like another term for the side of an angle. There's a bunch of different examples here on this diagram, but let's look at angle A. Okay, here's angle A, and let's look at angle E. Now, if you notice, angle A and angle E share this common ray right here. So they are adjacent. Angle A and angle E. There's lots of adjacent angles on this diagram. You could do angle A and angle B and angle C, etc. So they are angles that share a common ray. All right, let's flip to the next page. Angles and equations. We're going to use our knowledge from the definitions and this diagram down here below to answer these questions. Now, if you look at this diagram, it tells me that this angle right here is 55 degrees, right? That's given. Okay, let's go back up here and see what it's asking me. It's asking me the measure of angle B, and then I'm supposed to explain how I figured that out. So let's go down here to angle B. If you notice, angle B right here is formed by these two lines. This line and this line forms angle B. So my given angle is 55, and angle B is opposite that. So that must mean that angle B is also 55 degrees. Now I like to write, once I figure it out, I like to write it on my diagram because this information will be helpful to solve for other angles. So angle B is 55 degrees. And how do I know that? Explain how I know. Well, I know that angle B is vertical to the given angle of 55 degrees, right? Okay, so now let's see what the next question is. Now it's asking me the measure of angle A. Down here on my diagram, measure of angle A. So this is similar to the diagram we did on the previous page. Angle C I know is 90 degrees. It tells me that. I know with that information that A plus B, this whole angle, has to also be 90. And if B is 55 degrees, then I can figure out angle A by going 90 minus 55. That will give me angle A. And 90 minus 55 is 35 degrees. So angle A is 35 degrees because they are complementary to angle B. Angle A is 35 degrees. How do I know that? Because it's complementary to angle B, right? They must equal 90 if I sum them. So I'm going to say angle A is complementary to angle B. Angle B. Okay. Now it's asking me, the next question, the measure of angle E. Let's go look at E. So vertical angles right here. I know angle C is 90. Tells me that by telling me that's a right angle. So angle C and angle E are vertical, which means if C is 90, then E is also 90 degrees. So the measure of angle E is 90 degrees. How did I know that? Well, I knew that because angle C is vertical to angle E. And like I mentioned before, there's more than one way to figure these out. So if you have a different way of figuring it out on the diagram and you can justify it, then that's great. Okay, last question says the measure of angle D. Let's see, angle D is this angle right here. It's formed by these two lines. Again, I'm going to use vertical angles, extend those. And angle A is 35 degrees, so angle D also must be 35 degrees because it is vertical to angle A. Okay, how did I know that? Angle A is vertical to angle D. Or if you justified it a different way, then that's okay too. Okay? All right, next page. So now we're going to use the same information and do this with equations with unknowns, but it's going to be the same idea. So below we have angle A and angle B, which are right here, angle A and angle B. It tells me angle B is 40 degrees. Angle A says it's 3x minus 13 degrees. All right, so it says angle A and angle B are blank angles. So what's the association here? Well, they form a line, so they must be supplementary angles. Because they form that line, supplementary angles. Therefore, the sum of angle A and angle B is 180 degrees. Use this information to write an equation and solve for the unknowns. All right, so I know that angle A is 3x minus 13. And I'm going to add that with angle B. And that has to equal 180 degrees. So let's simplify here. 3x negative 13 plus 40 is plus 27 equals 180 minus 27. 3x equals 153. Divide each side by 3. I get x equals 51. All right. So if x equals 51, there's two ways I can do this. If I know B is 40 degrees, then A has to be whatever 180 minus 40 is, right? So I think it's going to be 140, but let's double check it by plugging this x in to there. I'm going to substitute it in. So 3 times 51 minus 13. Right? So 3 times 51 is 153 minus 13. And that gives me 140. Just as I suspected, because 140 plus 40 equals 180. So I know I did it correctly. Let's look at the next one. Angle C and angle D. So I am looking at angle C right here, which is 2x, and angle D right here, which is 2x plus 20. And I notice that they form a right angle, which means they are complementary because they form 90 degrees. So angle C and angle D are complementary. Complementary angles. Therefore, the sum of angle C and angle D is 90 degrees. Use this information to write an equation to solve for the variable. All right, well, same idea as before. I know angle C is 2x. I'm going to add that with angle D, which is 2x plus 20. And I know that has to equal 90 degrees. Let's do some simplifying here. 2x plus 2x, so that's 4x plus 20 equals 90 minus 20 from each side. 4x equals 70 divided by 4, let's see, 70 divided by 4, 35 divided by 2, so that's going to give me 17 and a half, 17.5. Now when I know what x is, I can take that information and substitute it in. So I have C equals 2x, which is the same as 2 times 17.5, which is 35. So C must be 35. Again, I can do this two ways. Now that I know C is 35, I can go 90 minus 35, or also use this expression to substitute it in. I'm going to do it both ways to check my work. So C is 35, plug that into here. So I have angle D is 2x, which is 2 times 17.5 plus 20. Well, I know it's 2 times 17.5, that's 35, plus 20, so that has to equal 55. And does 35 plus 55 equal 90? Yeah, so I did it correctly. Okay, last page. Angles R and angle T. So we're looking at angle R right here, angle R, and angle T. What do we notice about them? They're opposite or vertical angles. Therefore, the measure of angle R and angle T is equal. Use this information to write an equation to solve for the unknown. Okay, so angle R is x minus 15, and that has to equal 100, right? Now, over here, I should know that angle R is going to give me 100, okay, because I know it's the same as angle T. But let's do the math and double check our work, though. So solve this equation over here, plus 15 to each side, so I get x equals 115. And if I plug in 115 to this, 115 minus 15, right? Let's show the work, I guess. So x minus 15, so 115 minus 15 equals 100. That's R, right? And that makes sense because 100 and 100, they have to be equal. Let's do these word problems here at the bottom. It says angle C is complementary to angle D. Complementary. There's our keyword. Angle C is twice the measure of angle D. And so it says I need an equation to represent this situation. And then I need to find the measure of angle C and the measure of angle D. All right. It helps to think about what depends on what here. It says angle C is twice the measure of angle D. So let's just identify angle D, and we'll just say it's D degrees. That makes it simple. Angle C, it says it's twice the measure of angle D. So how could I represent that? Well, I'm going to write twice the measure of angle D, so 2 times whatever D is. And now I need to write an equation. Well, it tells me that they are complementary, so I know that they equal 90 degrees. So angle C, which is 2D, plus angle D has to equal 90 degrees. Simplifying that, well, I get 2D plus D is 3D, right? Divide each side by 3, so I get D equals 30. I know D is 30 degrees, And I need to figure out the measure of angle C. Well, angle C is 2 times D. So I'm going to go 2 times 30, which is 60. And that makes sense. 60 plus 30 is 90, and angle C is twice the measure of angle D. Let's look at this next one. It says angle F is supplementary to angle G. Okay, so supplementary is 180. Angle F is 20 degrees more than the measure of angle G. All right, so let's think about what depends on what. Angle F depends on angle G. I know that angle G is, we'll just say G, makes it simple. Angle F is 20 degrees more than the measure of angle G. So whatever G is, it's 20 degrees more than that, all right? So what would be an equation? Well, I know they're supplementary, so they have to equal 180. So I have angle, let's do angle F, which is G plus 20, plus angle G, and that has to equal 180. All right, so let's do some simplifying here. G plus 20 plus G. All right, so that gives me 2G, because G plus G, plus 20 has to equal 180. Minus 20 from each side, minus 20, minus 20. I get 2G equals 160, divide by 2, so G equals 80. Okay, let's write that down here. G equals 80. Now measure F is G plus 20, so 80 plus 20, right, is going to give me 100. And I can check my work here. 180 is giving me 180, so that's supplementary. Angle F, which is 100, is 20 degrees more than G, which is 80. So that works out great. Okay, last question. Let's do this. Angle R is complementary to angle T. Complementary, 90 degrees. Okay, angle R is 10 more than 3 times angle T. So I need an equation. I need the measures of each angle. What depends on what here? Angle R depends on angle T. So let's define angle T as T. And then we'll define angle R as 10 more than 3 times angle T. So 3 times T plus 10. And it tells me that they are complementary, so they have to be equal to 90 degrees. So let's write this up. We have T plus my R, which is 3T plus 10 has to equal 90 degrees. Let's do some simplifying. That gives me 4T plus 10 equals 90, minus 10 from each side. Over here, I have 4T equals 80, divided by 4 from each side. I get T equals 20, right? Measure of angle T is 20. I need to write my equation right here, which I have right there. So let's write it in there. I have T plus 3T plus 10 is 90. And again, since they're complementary, I know that angle R is going to be 90 minus 20, which is 70. But I can also check my work. 70. I can also check my work here by substituting 20 in over here. And so I have 3 times 20 plus 10, which gives me 70. So everything checks out. All right, that's it for today. Have a great one.